And good morning. Welcome to another edition of the Real Estate Radio Hour. Always welcome your real estate questions at 651-989-9226 or text us at 81807.
I was just going to say on that hot property,
Yeah.
Andy, that's one of Andy's listings, and you were just saying that people better hurry up and come check that out because you got...
Yeah, that's what you call a hot area.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we get, I think I had 20 showings my first day. That was listed here on Friday. So looks like it'll be a multiple offer, but it's, that area is
Linden
beautiful.
Hills, right?
Yeah, right on
Linden.
44th and Upton. You walk to the awesome restaurants and the lakes 2 blocks the other direction and
exactly.
Harriet and neat stuff.
So...
All right.
So hurry up and get over there.
Very good.
Right? Hey, all right. Going kind of what I ended up on the last segment there, and talking about, if I'm representing my seller and I don't want to put his exposure way out to the pilgrimage. I mean, it's not that much, but it's when it was first titled, I guess.
Right.
Is that what you're protecting?
Yeah,
because
back to 1850s.
Yeah, if there's, the great-grandparents of the parents had a divorce and it wasn't, satisfied correctly, that eventually maybe could come back and create a title problem.
Right, yeah.
Correct?
There are certain things that have like an end time and you don't have to worry about them anymore, but there are things that can last for years and years and years and years that you might have to deal with.
Right. So now, in saying that, there's a thing called title insurance. Okay, that obviously...
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, that insures the title, that it's good, but when you're buying as a buyer, you're getting title insurance to be able to protect the mortgage part of it, not your equity, correct?
Right. Yep.
Okay. And so then there's an owner's title policy which protects you. What does that owner's title insurance do? For a buyer, what does that protect them?
Well, like you said, there's 2 basic kinds. There's the lenders and the owners. The lenders really is just for the lender, and that's it. So if you think, well, I don't need to get title insurance because the lender got it, that's not truly the case because it doesn't protect you. But for an owner, it protects, in case there were any mistakes that were made at the closing, in case there were any bad transfers in the past, in case there are any unseen things that were missed, during the examination process. If maybe there's an open mortgage out that got missed, or any of those sorts of issues that you might have to deal with, or maybe your neighbor has an interest in your property, like an easement that wasn't found, or any of those things. That's what those things would be protected by title insurance.
Okay, so and when we're talking title insurance, that just doesn't protect you for what you put down as a down payment. If I was to sell in, say, 10 years from now, that protects my equity.
Essentially what it protects, correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about, I know we've had a lot of callers that have asked us about, they have a property they want to transfer to their children or their estate, or multiple siblings. Can you talk just a little bit about that and make us comfortable with that and what maybe the proper process is versus the perceived process?
Right. Yeah, and again, this is a situation where you're looking at what is your estate plan? How do you want to handle things? And depending on your situation, it can be totally different. But a couple basic ways that that we see a lot of are where an individual who owns a piece of property might reserve a life estate in their property. Essentially, what that means is they would deed the property to whomever, probably children, and they would retain a life estate. Essentially, that gives them the right to live in that property until they die, and then the children would be able to take the property and do what they want with. The other option is something that's relatively new in the past 3, 4, 5 years, which is called a transfer on death deed, or a TOD. And what that allows you to do is allows you to indicate which people you would like to have your property when you die, but you're not actually transferring it to them right now. You're actually indicating it, and then you retain the interest in that property. So you're able to do what you want with that property. If you want to turn around and sell it a week later after executing a TOD deed, you could do that. And the TOD just ends up withering on the vine, or just kind of. So
you still retain control is ultimately the
right.
Okay.
All right. I'll tell you what. Let's go to the line. Line 1. Tom in South St. Paul has a question. Go ahead, Tom. Thank you.
Question. I'd like to ask a question and hang up and listen. But
okay.
Can you explain the difference between abstract property and Torrance title property, and which would be better as far as ownership is concerned?
Thanks, Tom. That's a great question, and we get that all the time.
Okay.
Could you answer that, Liam?
Yeah, and essentially what it is Minnesota is one of the few states that has 2 different recording systems. One is the abstract recording system, one is Torrance recording system. And so really, as far as a piece of property, it's no different. The only difference, essentially, Torrance property was created by a judicial process of some sort. So it's called registered property. And things can be a little more technical, a little more involved with Torrance property as far as eliminating interest from that property. But really, there isn't a difference. I wouldn't I wouldn't say like you want to buy one piece of property over the other when you're looking at, like, if you're trying to compare two houses and decide, do I want to buy this one or this one because one's Torrance and one's abstract.
But most municipalities now prefer the Torrance system because of its simplicity, and like, for example, when you buy a farm and you get the big book, the abstract, we all keep in our freezer.
Right.
And then you go to close and you divide it into 30 lots. Everybody gets a piece of paper now, which now they've converted to a Torrance-style system. Can you explain a little bit about how, like, when you're saying it's a judicial system or done through the law, how does that work?
Well, essentially, like you say, everything started off as abstract. And at some point, we instituted the Torrance system. And so if you want to create a Torrance piece of property, you have to go to court. And essentially, they have examiners down at the counties that will essentially do the same thing I would do sitting at my desk. And they'll go through and examine the property and figure out all those various things that affect it. And then they'll create this one-page certificate, like you said, that lists all of those things. And so you can just take one page, look at it, and be able to, in 2 minutes, see what affects your property and how, what issues you might have.
All right, at this point, halfway point here, we'll take a break and remind our listeners, if you do have a question, we'll take them either phone-wise or text-wise. 651-989-9226, or you can send a text to us at 81807. We'll be back with more of the Real Estate Radio Hour here on 830 WCC.